past, I've been extremely critical of the suburbs, and I still maintain this position. I believe that the suburbs have made our people soft. They've also led to a sort of materialistic, consumerist lifestyle. But I'm not going to get into that. I've spoke about that at length before in previous videos. And for the past 4 years or so, come on, Bobo, come on, Bobo, come over. For the past 4 years or so, we've lived in this neighborhood here. And while I suppose it is better than an apartment for sure, I have seen some of these things that I just spoke about play out in this neighborhood. You know, I've met some people and I've seen how people interact with each other, especially online. You know, there's a neighborhood Facebook group. Very effeminate behavior that I've seen people engage in. It's pretty disgusting. You know, personally, I'm ready to head back up in the holler, back where my family, my blood, and my tribe is. But in today's video, you know, I'm trying to make, let's just say I'm trying to make lemonade out of some lemons. This isn't a bad neighborhood that we live in. And something that I've worked on over the last couple of years is trying to build a sort of social capital. Bo is over here just digging away. But anyway, I've tried to build up a bit of social capital in this neighborhood. And with what's coming and what potentially could happen, you need good neighbors. You need people around you who are not hostile. You know, I have made an effort to do a little networking. You know, I've got that sort of, you know, I just want to be self-reliant streak. Maybe it's a tad bit individualistic, but you do need people. You really need people. We are social animals after all. You need cooperation, and you need a network. So I'm going to tell you a couple of stories. This has played out over the last couple of weeks. You know, I have a baby, our babysitter, I'm looking at her house right now. She lives just right down the road, a few houses down. She takes care of our daughter when me and my wife are at work. When I'm home or when my wife's home, you know, of course, one of us watches her. I know this summer I've missed going fishing as much as I have in the past. But, you know, I'd rather stay here with my daughter, honestly. I'll find time to fish at some point. She gives us a very good deal, and she does an outstanding job with our daughter. And I trust her much more than any sort of daycare. She lives just right down the street. She knows what she's doing, and she's very, extremely helpful. And she doesn't charge us nowhere near as much as a daycare would weekly. I have a Serbian neighbor that lives just a couple of houses from her, coming towards my direction. He's a pretty cool guy. He's got a family. He's about my mother's age. You know, he's a Generation X. Me and him, we've had a couple of beers together, and I like to inquire about his life in Serbia. You know, I'm interested in such things. My next door neighbor here, she's a really brilliant woman. She's written a couple of books, and one of the things that it was sort of a work of providence was that years ago she had written a book talking about the Highlander Folk School. And when I discovered this like 3 years ago, my jaw hit the ground, because the Highlander Folk School is one of the things that's trying to ruin our heritage Appalachian culture. She did a lot of research. It's a fascinating book. And then I'm going to talk about my neighbor across the street over here. He's a transplant. He is of Irish descent. Him and his wife and his son. He's got a son that's about 21. He's also about my mother's age. They're from New Jersey. And, you know, I always cast a sort of suspicious eye towards people that move into Appalachia from elsewhere. But this man is a very good man, and he has helped me. We've helped each other tremendously over the past year. He was a diesel mechanic up there in his city. He maintained the snow trucks that plowed the streets. He was a diesel mechanic, and he has helped me. We've helped each other out a lot over the past year. For instance, one of my vehicles, I had to do some work to it, and I am not a mechanic. I'm gonna be honest with you. I can do like the simple basic things. I can let's see, you know, change a battery, change a tire, change the oil. I have changed brake pads before, and I've done drum brakes, but my old man helped me with it, and that's been many years ago. So I don't, you know, I don't have a lot of knowledge about it. About 3 weeks ago, my car, the battery started, it was wearing out, starting to die. And I went and got a new battery. I'd been having to jump it off for like a couple of weeks. I don't know if it's the heat. The battery was several years old. But I got down to the local AutoZone and got a new battery, got it put in, and my car would not start. The battery was, they tested the old battery, it was about shot, it was about done. But me and my daughter, we got stuck down there at AutoZone. It's about 10-15 minutes away. And thankfully, I was able to get a hold of our babysitter. She came down there and picked us up. It was extraordinarily hot that day. You know, it took her a few minutes. She picked me and my daughter up. And in my mind, I'm like, it must be the starter. Not only was the battery going bad, but the starter just up and quit. So that evening, my neighbor from New Jersey, you know, I told him about it. And he was like, well, let's ride down there and see if we can do anything about it. Dude, just a simple thing. You know, when your starter starts to go bad, you're sitting there, you try to crank your car and it just clicks. You can just use a hammer, tap the starter. Sometimes it'll start, but you need 2 people to do that. You need someone in there turning the engine over, someone to just tap it. Got it started right back up, thankfully. I was able to make it home. And then the next day, he helped me put a starter in. You know, I went and got the starter. I've changed a starter a couple of times. This one on this particular car was a little more difficult to get to. He was like, hey, just pull your car up here to my garage, and, you know, he helped me out. You know, that man saved me so much money. I didn't have to get my vehicle towed. Didn't have to go to a mechanic. And, you know, I tried to give him $100 because it took us about an hour to do it, and he refused it, you know. He also had helped work on my wife's SUV a little while back. We had to take a door panel off and do a few things. That time I gave him $100. I caught his son while him and his wife was out eating dinner somewhere. And I was like, you tell your father to take this money and don't bring it back. Because I appreciated his help. But, you know, he made it abundantly clear to me a few days later. He's like, you know, I don't want your money. You ain't got to worry about that. So what I'm trying to say here with all these stories and these, just my experience over the last few weeks, what I'm trying to relate to you is to work on social capital, no matter where it is that you live. Because you do need people. You know, I mean, say the election's coming up. You never know, man. I mean, I'm not, you know, holding my breath for some sort of widespread chaos or collapse, you know. But you never know. Things could possibly get hairy. And, you know, the suburbs, they are ripe for the picking, you know. If there was some sort of widespread sort of unrest, social unrest. You need to know the people around you. You know, I'm astounded at how many Americans probably have nothing to do with their next door neighbors, or the people around them, or the people in their community. You know, we need to change that. You know, you don't need to be a shut-in. I know we all like our alone time, you know, but you need to know who's around you. Whether you're in an apartment block, in a suburb, or up in a holler somewhere, or at your homestead. You need to have a network. It helps. So, you know, try to be a good neighbor. And like I said, I've helped him with some things. I'm not much of a mechanic, but I know last year they were taking a flywheel out of an engine and they needed someone to come over there and help just hold a wrench while they turned another wrench. And I'm a little bit, you know, my friend over here, he's a little guy, he's a short guy, but I call him the wizard, you know. He's got gray hair, sort of long, and a white goatee. I call him the wizard because he's a good mechanic. And I'm like, you know, anything you need help moving, anything, you know, I've got youth on my side, and I've got some muscle. I'm a beast of the field, beast of burden. So anytime you need me to move something for you, anything at all, don't hesitate to ask. I know here soon I'm going to help him put in a couple of countertops, a couple of granite countertops in his kitchen. And he just needs some help, you know, lifting. So that's something I can contribute. You know, it's all about trade-offs. You want to have something to offer. I just wanted to interject a couple of things I forgot to mention. I mentioned suburbs earlier, and really, I think that in America, they're nothing more really than white plantations. But that being said, you know, I'm stuck down here for 3 to maybe 5 more years before we can return to my land back home. That's the ultimate goal. But in the meantime, I'm going to make the best of the situation, you know. Now, the main thing that I didn't touch on was that, you know, my neighbors that I have mentioned, they're all pretty much conservative, you know, probably going to vote for Trump. Maybe they're libertarian. But you know what? I don't really care about these things because it's about survival and cooperation. It doesn't matter to me, you know. We may not agree, and you know, I don't reveal my opinions and some of my views that I talk about on this channel. I do not reveal them to these people. If they were to ask, perhaps I would. But you know, I just blend in. It's all about social camouflage. And you know, I'd rather talk about other things than politics. Just, you know, there's a lot of other things out there in the world. So don't let that hold you back either, you know. Sure, you, depending on your situation, you may find some who are just diametrically opposed to your beliefs. But, and you may want to avoid those people. I understand that. But, still, it's like I said, it's about survival and cooperation. So, it's all about cooperation, like I said. Work on building some sort of social capital in your area, in your surroundings. Because it's really beneficial. And proximity counts, you know. Proximity counts. Anyways, as we know, the election's drawing closer. I would stock up on some essentials. Make sure you have some weapons, some ammunition, you know. And as I said, work on building that social capital. Thank y'all for watching. Bye-bye.